Hello and welcome back to another episode of Math with Sohn. Today we got a pretty good one. We are going to be learning how to factor using the tic-tac-toe method. Something that looks like that. So a factorable problem would be something like x squared minus 6x minus 7. And we want to take this and put it into parentheses and write the factored form. And I'm going to be using this tic-tac-toe board for all the problems today. Sometimes it's called the box method. You put your first term, which is the x squared, in that first box. This is always where the first term goes. You put your last term, because if you're not first, you're last, right next to it. And you put your middle term up in the box. So this is the middle. From here, everything in the tic-tac-toe board is going to multiply to the right, and it will be multiplying down. So we have to multiply x squared and negative 7 to get negative 7x squared. And here we have to do the only actual problem solving of the day. We need to figure out something that will multiply to equal negative 7, multiply down, but add up to equal the negative 6. So we can list out the things that multiply to equal 7, which is a pretty short list. It's 1 and 7. And conveniently, a 1 and a 7 will add in some way, shape, or form to equal negative 6. So I worry about the numbers first. It's a 1 and a 7. And then I focus on which one has to be negative. Well, in order for it to be adding to a negative 6, the 7 has to be negative. And sometimes one will be negative and one will be positive. Sometimes they both will be negative or both will be positive. Your greatest common factor goes right here. So what does x squared and x have in common? Just an x. X times what makes x squared? Because everything in this tic-tac-toe is going to be multiplying together. So x times x makes x squared. It's also the greatest common factor between 7x and x squared. And then what times these things will equal the 1x and the negative 7x. So x times 1 will equal 1x. And x times negative 7 will equal negative 7x. So these multiply to get to here, these multiply to get to there, and conveniently 1 times negative 7 multiplies to get to negative 7 as well. And we have our factors. They are in this quadrant right here. The x goes with the negative 7, x minus 7. And the x goes with this positive 1. It is the crisscross. Do not forget it is the crisscross because that is how they are linked together, ladies and gentlemen. So this was a relatively easy one. We're going to do a few more that are look slightly harder, but they are actually no more difficult. All right? So let's say we have a 3x squared minus 2x plus minus 5. Nothing changes. We still put our first term right here. And we put our last term, which is negative 5, right next to it. And our middle term, negative 2 in the box, negative 2x. We have to multiply 3 and 5 to get negative 15x squared. And then we need to think of things that multiply down to 15, but add up to negative 2. So what are the things that multiply to 15? We got a 1 and a 15. 2 doesn't really go into it. 3 and 5. And not only that, 3 and 5 conveniently add up to negative 2. So it doesn't matter where you put the 3 or the 5, as long as they're there. It does matter which one is negative. And in order to add to a negative 2, the bigger number would have to be negative because negative 5 and 3 add to equal negative 2, and negative 5 and 3 multiply to equal negative 15. So we are good to go. So where does this 3 belong out of these two numbers? 3 doesn't really go into 5, but 3 does go into 3. So the 3 will end up being here because that is where it belongs, and 3 doesn't go into 5. But the greatest common factor between the 5x, negative 5x, and the 3x squared is x. And x times 3x, which I already put the x there, makes the 3x squared. and the 3 belongs with the 3. So x times what makes negative 5x? That's pretty easy. Negative 5. 3x times what number equals 3x? 1. And you can check your work. 5 times 1, negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Everything is piecing together perfectly. Again, your crisscross is your factors. So we have a 3x with a negative 5, which I'm going to write over here, 3x with a negative 5, and an x with a positive 1. There are our factors, and they are done. There are going to be other things we will be doing with those factors. That's going to be in a different video. If you're looking how to factor to solve, that's just a different video. It's not much further. Today, we're just focusing on factoring. So I got one more for you, and here it is. We got a 5x squared plus 19x plus 12, and we're going to put it in the tic-tac-toe board. 5x squared, first, last, middle at the top. 5 times 12 is 60x squared. Whew. So what numbers multiply to equal 60? Quite a few of them, in fact. We got a 1 and a 60. That won't add up to 19. We got a 2 and a 30. Also won't add up to 19. 3 and a 20. Getting closer. That's like a 23. 4 and a 15. Will add up to 19. And then 5 and 12, 6 and 10. I only wanted to list those out because you can kind of see that these numbers get closer together. And that lets you know when you've pretty much found all the things. And in this case, in order to add to 19, we got a 15 and a 4. And it's adding or subtracting because adding a negative is subtracting. Doesn't matter where you put the 15 or the 4, as long as they are there with their x's. So 15 and 4 multiply to 60. 15 and 4 add to 19. The 5 doesn't belong with 4, but does belong with 15, so I'm going to put a 5x there. And the x would go here because it goes with the 4. Now sometimes this, if let's say this was like a 6 or something, sometimes you end up splitting it up because 6 doesn't really go into 15 or 4. And that is possible where you're like, all right, I'm going to have to split the 6 up into maybe like a 2 times a 3. It's rare, but it does happen. You need to be looking for that greatest common factor. 5 times 15, we need to multiply by 3 to get to 15. And x times 4 makes the 4x, and 3 times 4, checking your work, makes 12. Crisscross are your factors, ladies and gentlemen. We got a 5x plus 4 and an x plus 3. Those are our factors. And that is all she wrote. That is going to be the end of this episode. We do not have to do anything else with that. Those are factors. Till next time, stay positive, and I will see everybody later. Bye.